Hi folks, welcome back to the shop here at Project Pine Hills. Today we're talking about this new Milwaukee task light. Now this light was just announced at the recent Milwaukee Pipeline event. You can see here that the part number is 2013R. You can see it has a 2-year warranty. Quick look at the back. You can see they're claiming it has the True View. That means it's supposed to help you see multiple colors like this wiring harness. You can freeze frame this and see it puts out 500 lumens on high for 4 hours, puts out 250 lumens for 8 hours, and it puts out 100 lumens on low for 12 hours. You can see here that it's 6-foot drop protected, chemical resistant, IP54, that's water and dust resistant. So let's check the light out. All right, so here's a look at this task light. Now what makes this light interesting as a work light is that it has its own stand built in, so you can stand the light up. You can magnetically attach the light, or you can take this light and hang it up. Has a divider here that opens up, so you have these two pieces, and so you could take it, for example, and hang it on like a piece of Romex between two studs, right? So there's the light, and once it's hung, you can orient it in any position. So you have, there's 3 different ways to mount the light, but what makes the light great is the light pivots. So you can take this light head and turn it any direction you want. So let's say you hang it here and you want to point it down, you can point it down. You can turn it out, turn it back. You can even take a light and point it up and pick whatever sort of direction you want. If you want it off to an angle, really any kind of adjustment that you can possibly want with this light, you can get from it. So that's the big idea. It has 3 ways to mount it. And what I noticed about this light was that it's a lot like this Klein work light that came out about 3 years ago. And the Klein is very similar, right? It has its own stand. Of course, it can be stood up, magnetically mounted. And the difference is the Klein has sort of a carabiner style hanger that breaks away right here and you can hook it on. Very similar lights from these two companies. Let's look at some of the differences. As we just shown, the stands are different. Of course, that means that this Milwaukee, because it breaks away here at the end, it can fit over larger objects. So for example, let's say you wanted to hang this on something larger, like I've got a piece of 1.5" PVC here. You can see here the carabiner can't even begin to sort of hook onto this PVC pipe. But if you take this Milwaukee light, we can open up, put this around the pipe, it magnetically reconnects, and you can see how it can go around this 1.5" PVC pipe. It can fit around larger objects than the Klein light. Let's say you want to mount it on some really big material. You can't just break away this stand and just hook it on one hook while using the light. So you don't have to have it wrapped completely around the object. So you have that option. And the Klein can do somewhat of the same thing. You could just push on this carabiner and have it held open, right? And not actually have it closed. So you can hook this on something too. So both can sort of act as a hook. Now, one thing I do like about the Klein probably better is if you're trying to mount on something smaller, for example, yeah, I can mount on a smaller object or a smaller rail, like you see that Klein light mounted. If you take this Milwaukee, it can mount as well, but only if it's a wider piece of material. So if you're trying to mount to something that's narrower, because Klein put the magnet on this cross bracket, you probably have more options to fit this Klein into smaller pieces of metal or smaller spaces than you're going to have with the Milwaukee because of the spread between these two magnets. So that's one improvement I think that Milwaukee was looking to make there. Let's go through the features real quick. If you look at the top of the light, you'll see we have the on-off switch, but then we also have a brightness setting. So you can turn on the on-off switch and it has memory. It's going to be at whatever the last setting was. And if you tap the other button, it changes the brightness levels. So there it's medium, low. It started out on high. We're going back to high. So there's that 500 lumen output. If I push it down to, let's say, low, turn it off. When I turn it back on, it starts back on low. And of course, there's a green light here on the side that tells you the charge level. This goes from green, orange to red, depending on how much charge is in the light. Now, the Milwaukee does come with a charging cable. You can pull down this cover here, and you can see it's got the USB-C. Here's the cable that comes with it. You plug in this omnidirectional USB-C cable, and at the other end it's got USB-A, so that's how you can charge the light. This Klein light has a micro USB port. But anyway, I can turn the light off. If you look here, you can see it has 8 total LEDs, 4 on each side of the light. If you look at the Klein has 10 of these LEDs. The Klein puts out 480 lumens on high. The Milwaukee puts out 500 lumens. And I can tell you there's a little bit of a color difference. You know, Milwaukee, it says here on the packaging, they have this sort of True View thing, which really means that the light puts out a warmer light. It's not quite as white as the Klein. And I don't know if I can show it here. I'll try. But if I turn them on, and you can see, I don't know if you can see there on camera, I'll try. But this is a warmer light on the Milwaukee. Now, one of the major differences is this Klein, you know, instead of having 2 buttons on the top, it has 1 button. So it's a very simple interface. You can find it very quickly. It's a large button. And you turn it on, it starts on high. You hit it again, it goes to low. And push it again, it goes off. And when you tap this button, you can see that it lights up the side here. And it shows you the battery's charge status. So if I hold it down, you can see it has a red, orange, and then 2 green lights. So a total of 4 lights here on the side to tell you the charge level. If we open up the side here, you can see that we have micro USB instead of USB-C like that Milwaukee has, and it has a USB-A port. Now this port here allows you to use this light as a battery bank so you can charge your smartphone or any other device with it. So it doubles as a charging bank that you can have in your tool bag. So it's one of the things that makes this Klein really nice. Now you'll notice here on the Klein that the pivot point here for the light is to one side of the light itself on the stand, right there, see? And it's not in the center. If we look at the Milwaukee, you can see the pivot point here is dead center of the light, and that makes it operate a little bit differently. This Klein, for example, if I push it forward, it will hit the bottom of the light here, and then we'll start to push the base up, which means if you're magnetically attached to something, it'll pull that magnet off, and it doesn't, as you pivot it this way, it doesn't really do much to come back in on itself on the stand. So little difference there. As you can see right here, that when you're tipping it forward, that the base of this light does hit, and it wants to stop right there at 90 degrees rather than allow you to keep going forward. But you can see on this Milwaukee light, if I put this on here, right, I can just push it forward. There's nothing for it to stand on because that pivot's in the center, and the light can go face down. So there's benefits to each one of these lights. The Klein, of course, does pivot just like that Milwaukee light, and that pivoting is the key feature, right? 3 ways to mount the light: standing the light up, magnetically attaching it, or hooking it in. But then that pivot's really what makes these lights, because it really allows you to work anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're an electrician, plumber, HVAC, or maintenance man. I mean, you just can't beat this light in any of those scenarios to mount it. In fact, the only thing I would say would beat it is, like, for mechanics, really the stick light is the way to go if you're a mechanic under the hood. I haven't found anything better for that situation. And the other type of light I like as a work light is a hat light, like this Olight Baton 3, which is excellent to put on the bill of your hat in a pinch, and now you have a hat light. So those are the 3 types of work lights that I like: the stick light, this hat light, and these task light designs. But this Klein has been great. Now, another thing about this Milwaukee is it doesn't have, as I said, that front on it, so you can tip this light forward. It will fall. It's a little bit heavier on the front, so if it's magnetically attached, you see it's not going to fall forward, and you can tip this light forward. And what's nice is you can sort of tip it back on itself if you want to. So you have this position here, you know, especially if you're on the edge, right here on the edge of something, you have a little more flexibility with it because of the way they've designed this center pivot. If we look here at the bottom, you can see the 2 magnets here. So we'll just compare the 2 magnet sections with the Klein. The Klein has 2 magnets right here. You can't see them because I have them wrapped in vinyl electrical tape. And that's because these magnets, I noticed on painted materials, will scratch up painted materials. I'm not sure if the Milwaukee would do the same thing. It probably would. So you could just easily wrap this with some vinyl tape and you won't have that problem. It also, when you wrap this with vinyl, it helps from picking up metal shavings and things like that. Whereas if you have this vinyl tape on there, you can just wipe it off. Easier to clean up instead of having debris get caught in the magnets. So I like a wrap magnet better. You can see that a lot of times Milwaukee will cover a magnet, as they did here on this stick light. You see it has a magnet on the back and it's completely covered, so it doesn't pick up any metal shavings or things like that. If it does, of course, you can just clean it right off. It doesn't scratch up painted surface, so I do prefer a magnet that's covered. Another great thing about this Milwaukee is it does have these rubberized feet on it. As you can see, the Klein here, they both have metal stands, by the way, but you can see here the Klein doesn't have those rubberized feet, so when you go to set the Klein down, it will slide around on you a little bit, so it could slide off a smooth surface. Whereas I noticed with this Milwaukee, when you put it down, I mean, it's planted there. There's rubber feet, there's 4 rubber feet on there, just completely keep it in one spot. And of course, you know, this light can go all the way around and back through its stand, float right through. If we look at a size comparison here between the 2, you can put them both down. Obviously, the Milwaukee is a flatter light. Okay, we'll look at them side by side here. Maybe I can show that there. So there they are side by side. You can see that the Milwaukee is a thinner light. Try to show the top view here real quick. And you can see that, so it's thinner, but it is wider. If we put them on top of each other, sort of face to face, get a feel there for the distance and the width. Here's another look at the quick size comparison. I got both the lights here mounted side by side. You can see how they look as you sort of take a look around. The lights here mounted in the same position. You can see they stand about the same height here in the front. Look at the top, you can see that switch difference there. With a large orange button here on the Klein, you can see you got the 2 buttons here on the Milwaukee, the on-off button and the brightness levels. This is what the Milwaukee looks like with a smartphone. Now this is an iPhone 13. And you can see I can put this Milwaukee light right over this. And it's about the same form factor. It's a little bit wider than the iPhone, but not quite as tall. You can see the iPhone there. If I just set them down here, you can see the iPhone is a little bit taller. Similar to a smartphone in size. Of course, it's, you know, thicker than a smartphone. They are side by side. You know, the smartphone's about as thick as the mounting stand for the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee is not a charging bank like this Klein. So when we look at some of the major differences between these 2 lights, The Milwaukee has USB-C, the Klein does not. The Klein connects as a charging bank, the Milwaukee does not. The Milwaukee can wrap around corners better. It has a larger bracket to fit around larger items. You can set the brightness on the Milwaukee and forget about it, but that's kind of a two-pronged thing, right? Because if I turn this Milwaukee on, I'm probably, let's say I put it on medium, I'm probably going to always wonder to have it on high and have to loop around to figure out if I left it on high last time anyway. It only pays off really, I think, to have the second dimness switch if you're going to go down to medium or low. That's when it matters, because that way when you turn it on, it's on medium or low. Whereas with the Klein, it's always starting on high. And if you always want to be on high, the Klein's just fine. You don't care about the memory. Another tap on the Klein takes it down to a lower setting. There's only 2 settings on the Klein. Another thing I like about this Klein is, and if we can show this or not, I might try to show it here real quick. If you look at this Klein, when we take the lights down, you'll notice there's a green ring around the light. So it's got a glowing ring that's not quite charged up as it could be. That ring is really nice for when you turn this light off in a dark space, you can find the light pretty quickly. So it's a nice touch that Klein added this glow ring around here so you can spot it. And of course, I said the downside here of this guy is it's micro USB. It's not USB-C. I don't think Klein's updated that as when I checked. This is a great light. Really, to me, one of the best work lights out there. So you just have to decide, what features you're looking for. You like these rubber stands. The fact that Milwaukee has a larger hook, it can fit on larger things. You can open this guy up and you can imagine what you can put it around. Get a quick measurement here. You can see we've got about 2 7/16 distance here, or width here, between the brackets. So that's the kind of space you have in terms of mounting this light. So it really comes down to what you're looking for in a light. If you want a battery bank and maybe you like this form factor better, I do like this Klein's form factor in general. You just grab this light, reach up front, easy to hit that button, turn it on, shine it wherever you need it, turn it off, put it back in the bag. It just fits really good in the hand. I'm not crazy about the fact when you stand the light up, it does sort of bottom out there. And this part here comes down to what your personal preferences are. I mean, if you're looking for a charging bank, the Klein's the way to go. I'll have a link to this Milwaukee in the description, and there'll be a shopping link in the video. You can click that, and if you want to check this light out, please remember to like and subscribe. All those actions helping to continue to bring content to you here on the Project Pine Hills channel. And with that said, I'll see you in the next video.